Hello, everyone, and welcome to QTRIC's second annual Zero Emission Bus Technology and Transit Operations Conference. My name is Magali Frenet, and I am one of the Membership Success Officer at QTRIC. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to our panel, New Innovations and Challenges Ahead in Electric School Bus Technologies Across North America. And before we begin, I'd like to share that we have closed captions available in both French and English. You can enable this tool directly below the video stream. I'm joining you today from Neuville in the province of Quebec, and in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat Nation. So in this panel, we're going to focus on electric school bus technologies. So we're happy to welcome two panelists, Patrick Gervais, Vice President, Marketing Communication from Lion Electric, and Stephen Coscoletos, Director of Electrification from Girardin Bluebird. And I would like to get started with Patrick. So Patrick, if you could come on stage, please. Excellent.
Well, hello, everyone. Really happy to be here today with you to talk about electrification of school buses and also innovation, because when you look at these big yellow vehicles, they do look like normal school buses, but at the end of the day, they're a little bomb of technology. So very excited to be here with you today. Transportation, as you guys know, it's the largest source of GHG emission in Canada. It's roughly 25%. And with emission reduction goals to 40 to 45% by 2030 and net zero by 2050, electrification of heavy-duty transportation is the fastest way to achieve these goals. And electrifying school buses is just a gesture of society, and all makes sense, especially to start in heavy-duty transportation electrification because of the routes that they do. Early in the morning, sometimes they have breaks during lunchtime. They go back to work in the afternoon, and they could recharge all evening long and during the night. Benefits of one electric school bus on the road, it's 23 tons of GHG emission that it's saved per year. It's the equivalent of taking 5 cars off the road. It's nothing at the end of the day. But when we talk about electrification of heavy-duty transportation and school buses, it's more than just the impact on the environment, and it's also a business, a viable business model. But it's more than that. We do it for the community. We do it for our kids. There's no noise pollution on the buses, so kids could talk to each other. They don't have to scream. Even for the driver, he could look at the back and see what's going on. There's things I did not know is the emission of diesel is really bad for the lungs development of kids. So it has a great impact. It creates cancer. And then when kids are going to school on an electric school bus, they're more calm and quieter. They perform better. So that was quite a surprise. And we had a route of one of our customer who had the most disturbed kids from the school. And when they went, they arrived at the school in the morning, the first time they used their electric school bus on their route, the teachers were like, "What did you guys put in their drinks? These kids are quiet. What's going on?" And then the parents, when they got back to home after the day of school, they called the school and said, "What did you guys do to my son or my daughter? What's going on?" And then they found out that it was really all the vibrations, the sounds that the diesel and combustion engines are doing that are improving performance of the kids at school. So it's also the lungs, the development of everyone that works around these. The driver, it's easier to drive. It's more fun to drive. The mechanics, there's a lot less maintenance, and there's no greasy oil, no oil change. So there's a lot of advantages to electrification of school buses. The other thing is the school bus is one of the safest vehicles in the transportation industry. All vehicles compared, and it's a proven safety record. At Lion, we used composite body, so there's no rust, no leaks, a lot less rivets. We used an aluminum cabin structure, for a solid frame. We also used rust-proof coated steel chassis to make sure that they're solid and strong. The braking and the suspension, it's way smoother when you're riding on an electric school bus, and the regenerating braking system is also giving more power and a longer range. And then at Lion, we did build a 1 or 2 inch wide school buses. Why? It was the first one to be able to put 3-point seating belts in school buses without a loss of capacity, which is really important. To put even though it's not a regulation in every provinces, it's still possible to do that. And then when you're walking down the aisle, well, you got more room, more space for the kids, but also for the driver who needs to go back and then talk to some kids that are a little disturbing in the back. But like I was saying, it is today a viable business model. Why? Because obviously, when you look at the acquisition price as of today, it's way more expensive. It's about double the price of a combustion engine. But there's a lot of savings that are being made. It's about 80% savings on energy costs, and with the price of gas going up, it's going to be even more. And it's more than 60% of savings in the maintenance. So when you're calculating the total cost of ownership, when you're taking the acquisition cost and the operational cost on the total cost of ownership on his lifespan, electric will always be cheaper and more affordable than a combustion engine. Also, like I was saying, these vehicles are bomb of technologies. There are big energy storage that are, energy storage on 2 wheels. Maybe you have heard of V2G, which is vehicle to grid. You have the capacity to store energy into the vehicle, when it's not working, when it's not driving kids to school. You could store energy when the cost is at its lowest, and you could send it back to the grid when the cost is at its highest. So transportation company, school districts, could make profit out of this. So it's very interesting. It's brand new, and maybe a bit less popular in Canada, but it could be. There's a lot of things that could be done on the energy storage. So there's a lot of things that could be discovered. Like there's no new business models that the electrification, especially in the school bus industry, is giving the transportation company. Always, people are always talking to me about batteries, and then they're like, okay, what's going on? What are you going to be doing? Recycling, and when do you need to change them? Batteries have 4 lives. The first one, it's really its usage. It's going to be rolling. Batteries usually are guaranteed 8 years. We have extended warranty to 12. But these batteries could last up to 20 to 25 years. The second life, I called it permutation, but it's swapping them, because on a heavy duty vehicle like a school bus, you have 3 to 6 different batteries. So you could either take, the first one will have a higher demand than the last one. You could swap them around, for a longer life of the batteries. But if you're able to do 250 kilometers on a single charge, and then you only need to do 100 kilometers on some other kind of vehicle, you could take them and put them on another vehicle that will need less range in kilometers on its routes in the everyday. And the third stage is really storage. Tesla made a lot of money just to selling its old batteries to wind farms in Russia. So you could use them for generators for houses, wind farms, solar farms, energy storage. Telecommunications tower will need energy and use these. So there's a big new business opportunity with the battery storage. And the last stage, which is recycling. As of today, you could recycle about 95% of the battery, some plastic components that cannot be recycled. But in a couple of years from now, we're going to be able to recycle 100% of the batteries. It's easier for a mining company in lithium ion to go and get the lithium ion from a battery than dig into a mine, and there's a lot less emissions into recycling also. So it's mostly the battery life cycle. One of the things that we say when you look at a school bus, and I always say it always looked like a normal school bus, but it's really important in electrification that your vehicles are purpose built to be electric, because you don't take a normal diesel chassis, take off the powertrain, and put some electric powertrain into it. Everything needs to be placed at the right place. Even in the design, the aerodynamics, we use, I was telling you about composite body, lighter body, to make sure that we perform better. The batteries are placed a certain place for weight balance to make sure it's safe, secure, and well operating. When you look at the motor only has 20 parts versus 2000, and there's only 3 that moves. So it's really important to make sure that everything is placed at the right place, and then when you're building them, is to optimize the performance of your vehicle and to make sure that you have the best vehicle on the market. The other thing is, like I like to call them the bread and the pudding, the battery management system and the thermal battery management system are also some important things to improve performance of your vehicles. Just a quick shout of what's available. There's 3 categories. We call it the Line A. Our Line A is a little bit special in design. It's a monocoque. It's one piece. It's designed to live for 12 to 15 years. It's really strong. It's a flat nose for greater visibility. You have the Line D, which we see a lot less in Canada, but a little bit everywhere. It's about 10% of the school bus market, but I think we're going to see more and more of these because of the flat nose. They used to not be so popular because the engine would be underneath the driver. There's a lot of vibration, and there's a lot of emissions that comes from the engine. But because in the electrification, the motor is placed in the middle of the chassis, behind next to the wheels, there's no vibration. And I feel that because of the flat nose, a lot of people are going to have a tendency to go towards the Line D and the Line C, which is our typical school buses, the most popular ones with the big nose in front. All of our vehicles, the big ones, have a 250 kilometer range with different different range availability from 150 kilometers to 250 kilometers. And the Line A, the smaller version, we have 120 kilometers and 240 kilometers per range. So I think it's important to look at what your needs are and what the type of routes and the amount of children that you're going to be transporting with it. But there's again a lot of opportunity with the school bus and the electrification of school buses. So that was mostly a quick presentation of who we are. And we'll always say, hey, guys, you got to make the right move and start doing transition towards electrification. Well,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you for highlighting the bright side of this new technology and what you guys do at Lion. And thank you so much for bringing up in the conversation the fact that it's almost like a lifestyle to travel in an electric school bus for us, but also for our kids. So thank you very much. Looking forward for the Q&A. So I'd like to call Stephen on the virtual stage, please, for his presentation, which will be different. So we're looking forward to learn about a new side of electric bus technology. Over to you, Stephen.
It looks like I'm coming on. I am. I'm here. So first of all, thank you, Patrick. That was an amazing introduction to the electric school bus market. My presentation is going to be focusing on everything else around the school bus. While we don't sell Lion buses, we do sell Bluebird buses. So same applies here. But I felt that an introduction to maybe the infrastructure piece and what goes off vehicle would be interesting. So let me talk a little bit first on what we do here at Girardin Energy. So what we try to accomplish is bringing the electron to the vehicle. So there's a lot of steps that get involved in the process, from the utility connection to the transformer to the low voltage distribution equipment in the shape of a container, a skid, or whatnot, to then finally the chargers and the software that governs them. So this is our mandate. We support our dealership network. Bluebird sells their electric buses through their dealers, so they have local presence in multiple territories. And we are mandated and assist the local dealerships with their clients and their special needs. So what do we do in a nutshell? Well, we bring it up into three buckets. We analyze the situation, we execute it, and then we provide the service for it. So in the analysis phase is what I'm going to be focusing on today, and the execution. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to be using real life examples for clients that we've electrified already in the Quebec market. So you'll be seeing some actual reports and graphs from my side of things on what challenges they're facing today and how we're innovating to overcome them. So the first thing we need to do for our electric customers is to do a fleet and circuit analysis, because believe it or not every circuit and route can be electric. There are certain range issues. There's topography to take into consideration. There is the summer and winter cycles. There's the type of charging, the available power. So we basically go through the gambit and ask them, how many buses? What's the power that you have at site? What power do you need at site? Are we bringing a new dedicated entrance? Can we use your electric panel that's already existing? Is there enough space? And then we analyze the state of charge of the buses in the summer, the winter, the battery degradation over time, and the weight that the bus would be carrying, whether it's a big bus or a small bus. So this is the first step to everything, and this comes out with a report for a customer. So pardon the French, but it is an operator in Quebec. For those who don't know, Quebec is actually mandated to buy electric as of November of last year. So most of the use cases I'm going to show you today come out of Quebec. So this one here, I put everything that you need to see in red, and I'll explain it here in English. So this operator specifically needs to have 85 buses electrified at his site. He has 3 different sites. One is a principal site for 59 buses. The second is a satellite site for 21. And the final one is 5 at his drivers' homes. We did the analysis of his circuit, and we basically said that, look, I think for the 56 at your primary site, we can do level 2. Unfortunately, we're going to need to use some level 3s to complete some of the routes. I'll get to it as to why that's possible, why that is needed later. But effectively, the 19.2 kilowatt AC charger is good enough at 80 amps, and the 50 kilowatt DC charger is actually good for the level 3s. For the Bluebird buses, they're limited to 60 kilowatts of input charging DC, and at 60 kilowatts, I mean, if we did see that 60 kilowatts could be sufficient for even larger buses. Like based on our analysis tool, unless we've made a mistake, I think that even the larger transit buses can probably get away with an overnight charge of 60 to 100 maximum. So I think that we've hit a sweet spot in this category. The total power at site here, where the red arrow is, basically, if we plugged it in with no intelligence whatsoever, would require 864 kilowatts of draw. So we're getting close to the megawatt. But if we put our intelligence software that actually controls the power management on the site, we could get away with 213 kilowatts. So that's a significant saving for this customer over time. And then, we give other recommendations here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically, we recommend we add an additional 2 chargers in his garage for service. These chargers will be mobile, plugged into a regular 220, so that way they can move it around between their bays. We did have constraints from the customer saying that, look, the parking lot is really big, so we're going to need to make sure that the voltage drop for our cables isn't a big factor, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the report summary that comes from the fleet analysis. We can derive so much from understanding how these buses are running and what kind of conditions they're running in. This isn't from the same customer, but this is from another customer. This particular use case here is a route analysis where our customer asked, I don't want to pay for a 19.2 kilowatt charger. We still find that's expensive regardless of government subsidies. So can I get away with a 7.2 kilowatt charger? So we ran scenarios for this one. We have Voyage 1, Trip 1 and Trip 2. If you guys aren't familiar with the school bus market, Trip 1 is in the morning, comes back. There's a break period where the buses charge, and at night they go get the kids again to bring them back home. So we did this with the Microbird, which is our Type A bus, and the Bluebird Vision, which is our Type C bus. And our security factor for this guy was 15%. They're in a pretty cold climate. They are also in a mountainous region. So if it drops under 15%, we told them it should be a red flag. So if you look at the three scenarios, well, the Microbird G5E comes back just under 15%. So we flagged it for him. But it shows also that for trip 2, I do have the time with a 19.2 kilowatt charger to get it to 100%. If you look at that same line all the way to 7.2, the lunch break that bus has cannot get it to 100% in time. So the 7.2 kilowatt charger would not be recommended in this case. So this modeling of a route analysis is really important for our customers, because we do want to make sure that they don't spend money they don't need to. If you look at the final line here with the Bluebird Vision, you see that this one clears the whole way through. But as you get to the 7.2 kilowatt range, man, is that tight. We're right at 16.15%, which puts us right at the border of our security of 15%. So this route analysis tool, a nice little innovation on our part here. We're trying to basically maximize the charge by minimizing the cost. Another example that we show our customers, this is from another site. So if you look at the two graphs, the blue curve represents what would happen normally without power management, and the orange one would be with power management. So this doesn't take into consideration like telematic integration. This doesn't take into consideration where like I am pulling in state of charge at all times and scheduling and all that stuff. This is just basic power management on peak reduction with figuring out where the peaks are in his network in advance and modulating accordingly. So we're able to show a 62% reduction. We were also able to shift out the charging to the later hours of the day where the energy is cheaper. So this is something that we model also right at the beginning, because most of the programs, and we saw it at the opening statement, like the ZETF is involved. This is all part of the analysis process that we put our customers in. We've got to show that we have a decent use case here for school bus electrification and how we're helping the customer. So this is something interesting that comes in from our engineering package. And then when we get to the really nitty gritty of things, what is it going to cost for electricity, right? So this is the same customer as the one from the previous slide. So we took their peak management and we dollared it out. So what does that mean? If they use zero peak power management, they will be paying at the end of the year 187,249 Canadian dollars extra than they would under their normal business. So this is the charging of their batteries effectively. And it's the orange line. We mapped it out based on the rates of Hydro-Quebec. Those are available online for you guys to see. Then if we did the actual peak reduction like we promised with the power management, we'll get like a 61.03 peak reduction. So that's a $100,000 bill instead of a $187,000 bill, netting in an $87,000 saving over the year just by modulating your power. And then we tell the customer, look, if you're interested, we'll take your telematics platform, we'll embed it, we'll get the state of charge, we'll put in a scheduler in there. And then instead of charging to 100% state of charge blindly using power management, we'll charge to the 81.3% state of charge that your bus needs to actually complete the route within the security margin. That way, we're really, really efficient with our power, reducing their annual cost for electricity, just specifically for the buses. I'm not talking about the building that's already there or any other services that they have, to $71,825. So, you pay a monthly cost to get a software, but you're saving so much with it. So getting a fleet management and an energy management software just makes sense. On the infrastructure side, well, a lot of our customers don't understand what this means. So we map things out. So part of the engineering package is to create a 3D plan just like this one. You could see for this customer, our skid is installed. We map out their buses. This is actually their site. We don't do graphics. It takes forever to load. If you zoom in a bit more, you'll get to see how we would place our charger. These buses are nose to nose. We got the pack in the middle, which is a modular scalable charge pack. and this would be level 2 charging. So this is a real customer in Ontario that decided to proceed with us for their school buses. Just something nice and visual for the customer to digest. More innovations. Well, we've got our standard container, and that's the skid on the bottom right-hand side that I was showing you before with the pedestal, just more of a CAD drawing than a 3D drawing. But another thing we've noticed is that customers buy buses and sometimes don't think about electrification. So we've got this mobile trailer that has 7 19.2 kilowatt chargers that can be just wheeled into their lot, and we can charge 7 Bluebird Visions with it. We connect it to Hydro-Quebec. We get rid of the wheels. We prop it up so that it becomes a building. And that's a nice, cool thing that we had to build because, you know, some customers bought buses and totally forgot about their chargers. So now we've got a solution to help you while you wait for your infrastructure. The last thing I want to just talk about today is the dashboard. So everybody does it a little bit differently. You know, we've got our own, everybody's got their own. We can integrate ours, we can use theirs. But, you know, if you're really jammed, we've got a turnkey for you. So this is how you would visualize all the stuff I was telling you about earlier. You've got your own dashboard with your own depots. And this is, you've also got an RFID badge, so you could badge into any public network that you want to charge your bus in.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephen. I think it was a great second part to what Patrick shared with us earlier on, more on the technical side. So I would like to invite Patrick back and keep Stephen so we could start the Q&A. And I think I'll start with you, Stephen, since you just showed the presentation. So why level 2 charging mostly and not level 3 exclusively? Do you have anything to say and share with us about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky topic, right? Because it depends on their routes. You know, sometimes level 3s are needed. But if you can get away with level 2 charging as much as possible, I think it's the way to go. They're just so cheap and so easy to install today, and you don't need to bring in, you know, special power for them. And also, if you're an operator that has most of your fleet as parkouts, and for those who don't know what that means, is like it's basically the driver takes the bus home. Well, you don't want to be putting a DC fast charger at someone's home. You know, there's no room in their home panel, and you don't want to be doing home renovations to get a better panel and have the driver leave, you know, a year later. So level 2, I think, is here to stay for this market. And the more you can get away with it, you should.
Absolutely. Sounds good. And I think this brings me to Patrick on a more general question. What does it take to accelerate the school bus electrification in Canada?
Well, you know, we're pioneers in Canada in electrification, especially in, you know, heavy duty transportation, but also in car manufacturing. But I strongly believe, and I always say the same thing, and people have heard me before, it needs 4 things really important. First, it's legislation. We need to make sure that we direct people towards electrification. You know, the school bus program in Quebec is a good example, where you have to, you know, since November 1st, 2021, you know, all new routes with all new purchases of school buses needs to be 100% electric, and it favors some of the local economy. And it brings me to incentives after that, because, you know, there's, even though the total cost of ownership will always be you know, more advantages, there's still a break, you know, because of the purchase price. It's so expensive. So, you know, incentives are easing the way to transition towards electric. The third one, it's the supply chain. It's really important that we do build here in Canada our own supply chain, and especially in electrification, because it's gonna reduce the cost. And we're lucky we have, you know, a bunch of OEMs like Girardin. We also have Novabus, we have New Flyer. So they don't do school buses, but, you know, all of them. But, you know, it's the whole supply chain and the whole electrification world that needs to be built in Canada, and that will reduce the prices really, really fast. We also strongly believe that, like I was saying, in the battery ecosystem, with the integration of, you know, a vertical integration of our supply chain, we're you know, looking forward to see some cells manufacturer. Lion is building its own battery manufacturing facility, which will be in Mirabel, Quebec, and then we're going to be able to integrate that in H2 2022, second half of this year. So we're really excited about this. And the fourth one is really speed. It's really important that things move fast. If we want to stay ahead of the pack, Canada is a leader in electrification in North America, and then not even North America, worldwide. So we need to make sure that we stay ahead of the pack. We need to put these things in place quite fast, and make sure that the whole the whole company, the whole ecosystem goes towards electrification. And I think these are the four key success to electrification in Canada.
Absolutely. And I think, Stephen, you probably have something to add about what it takes to accelerate the school bus electrification in Canada. Like, what do we need?
What do we need? Well, I mean, Patrick covered that great, and what he's doing and what Lion is doing in Quebec and creating Canadian jobs is phenomenal, honestly. The biggest concern in our industry for school buses is that it's really convoluted. You've got school boards, you've got operators, you've got contracts and school years that you have to deal with. So navigating these nuances is really important. We're talking about private companies with family money that used to be the grandfather's business to move to the father, to the son, transitioning them forcefully and making them have to do this hasn't yielded to the best feeling in Quebec. It didn't feel organic, but when you look at other markets in Canada where they're not forced but encouraged, the sentiment is the opposite. They're actually really curious. They want to early adopt. So I think putting programs in place, like Patrick was saying, is a really good idea, but also understanding the reality of having your own family business and having to forcefully put them through something that could create a financial strain for that family could be difficult.
Absolutely. And what kind of innovation can we expect over the next 5 years in the electric school bus sector? Stephen, would you like to continue on that?
Yeah. So I think what's happening with these vehicles in general is that getting power to the vehicle is also something very, very interesting. I think in the next 5 years, I can expect the buses to be just better in general. They should be cheaper. They should have more range. They should accept various modes of charging that they don't accept today, and just stay up to speed. Now, a big issue in the industry today is that the telematics of the vehicle, so what's happening on board, is not easily extracted to something that can be considered a charging system, right? So can the charger really take in the information of the vehicle and then derive conclusions from it? Right now, it's not done cleanly. It's through APIs, it's through other companies. So there's a lot of players in the game. Mm-hmm. I expect over time to have a more streamlined approach where bus OEMs kind of take the rein on it, or at least the responsibility on it, to directly influence their product and make sure that it becomes the best it can be.
Absolutely. And Patrick, I think, what's the take of Lion about that? Like, what can we expect in the next 5 years from Lion or from the industry?
Well, electrification is the fastest growing technology in automotive ever. We look at what we were doing 4 years ago. We would be doing only 100 kilometers range with a school bus. Now we do 250 kilometers. We do 400 kilometers with a truck on a single charge. Charging technology, we're talking about level 2, level 3. The cost of a level 3 charging station dropped from $50,000 to $15,000 on a charging station. It's way more affordable. It got faster as time goes by. Batteries will be more condensed. It's going to take you just as long as putting some gas in your vehicle to charge your in 5 to 7 years from now. We're going to be able to do 1,000 kilometers on a single charge. We've seen one battery is doing 1,000 kilometers with a Tesla this year. So technology is growing really, really fast. I feel that technology is going to improve, perform. It's going to be more reliable. As of today, it's a new technology, which is, even though we've been working over the last 10 years on electrification at Lion. We started in 2011. We put our first school buses in 2016 on the road. We have over 550 vehicles on the road with more than 14 million kilometers driven. So it's a proven technology, but it needs to still keep on improving. But as time goes by, And then again, like I was saying earlier, there's such variety of business models available with the energy storage, the B2B, vehicle to building, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to grid. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities like this. There's some, in the energy on the grid side, it's a brand new source of revenue for them. And there's going to be a lot less GHG emission, and it's going to be way much better for the environment that using oil and gas. So there's, it's a bright future for electrification, and we here in Canada need to keep on mastering and using our genius to develop these technology and everything surrounded around that.
Yeah, and you just mentioned it again, and you talked about it in your presentation, vehicle to grid technology, how important it is, is it really worth it? Is it where we're going, and how important it is for you at Lion?
Well, as of today, I would say, it's a nice thing to have. I don't think it's something that it's quite ready, even though there's a lot of pilot project. We just did one with Con Edison, and then all the buses are ready to go. It's the technology that, brings the energy in and out that's quite complicated. It's not the vehicles, putting energy in and out, but people thinks it's the vehicles, but it's not. It's really the systems and the charging stations that are going to be able to do that. And that technology is it's there, it's improving. And, but we don't know what's going to be happening. There's a lot of opportunity. For example, when there's a lot of high heat waves in California, you would be able to shut down the whole grid system next to the schools because the electricity lights up the fires because it's so dry. So you would be able to power your building from your school buses. So the school could be powered when there's, tornadoes and things like that. So there's any environmental crisis, you'd be able to use that. So it's not quite ready yet, but it's going to be there. So it's going to be creating some new opportunities that we still don't know tomorrow, that we did not know a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's just showing that this is a new technology. And Stephen, I saw you smiling when Patrick started talking. What you think it's worth it? What do you think about it?
I agree with him 100%. Like it's a nice to have. And it's something that, when you go in the States, he mentioned Con Edison, and that's mint because in the States, everybody's talking about vehicle to grid. You need to have distribution, support power generation. And that's a product of the fact that generation in the States is much harder to come by than here in Quebec, or in Ontario. We have so much power in Canada because of our streams and our hydro dams that we don't think about this stuff. So we can afford to hold off. So vehicle to grid technology, I mean, you hear about it a lot in the States. We're forced to implement it too because that's what the customer wants, and we're not just going to say no. But you're putting unnecessary cycles on your battery. Do all OEMs support these cycles, or are you voiding your warranty? Does it degrade the battery faster? There's detriments to vehicle to grid technology too. And especially if you're stuck getting maybe like a level 3 vehicle to grid technology charger, like a V2G enabled charger, something out of maybe Rhombus, the rate of return of that one, like you might as well take that money and put it in the market. You'll make more money with your money there than you would do getting the ROI from like the V2G tech. You know what I'm saying? So right now we're not where we need to be, but it is a technology that could be really interesting because eventually, the virtual power plant model, the battery energy storage model, all of that ties into having last mile distribution, support power generation in power hungry regions of US and Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Patrick? I saw you were.
No, I was, it was continuously what I was saying, but yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. And what factors should clients consider when they're taking initiative for transforming their school fleets, and how OEMs are helping? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Maybe Stephen first.
You know what? I was answering a question in the chat that I didn't know, like I should have, so I didn't hear. What? Say that again?
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. What factors should clients consider when they're taking initiative for transforming their fleet, their school fleets, and how can OEMs help?
Yeah, so OEMs play a critical role here. Absolutely. So when you're transitioning your fleet, obviously you've got to make sure that the circuits that you choose make sense. And especially if you're, I guess if we're talking about the school bus market, right? Some things just don't work, some things work barely, and some things work well. And if you take the things that work well as a good starting point, because you do want to get familiar with the technology where it works, you don't want to take the fringe case where it's impossible, even like 5 years down the line. You want to take what works. Then you think about, okay, does my battery degrade over time? Yes. Will the circuit that I place my bus in be at the cusp of that battery, right? Patrick was saying, buses last 10 to 12, 15 years. 15 years later, with 3% battery reduction per year, do I still make the same amount of kilometers, or do I have to find a migration for my bus to a shorter circuit such that I can keep that bus, actually for 10 years? Because you don't want to make it so that it's borderline and it's your shortest circuit, and then you do it for 5 years, and now you don't even have the kilometers for that, and then that bus stays in your parking lot. So you got to just think about, what does your business need and where can you fit the bus? And then after that, then you talk to infrastructure, then you bring in the right kind of charging.
Absolutely. And Patrick, what do you think about that? Do you what should your clients, your potential future clients, consider when they're
it's really
learning?
Stephen was right on the routes and how you have to make sure, but as of today, the average route is about 125 kilometers for school bus industry. So I would say 90% as of today, 90% of the routes could be operated by school buses, electric school buses. And then by the time we replace, because it's about an average of replacing 10% per year, range will get there. So, very soon enough, we'll be able to do 100% of the routes. On the battery degradation, a little, on our hand, it's a little different. We see less than 0.5% degradation in the school bus industry per year. So we feel that, in 15 years from now, it's not even going to be 10% that you're going to be losing. So you're going to be good to go. But one of the important thing, again, continuously to what Stephen was saying, it's really to look at, we used to give the keys to people and say, hey, thank you very much. We're really happy. And if anything happens, give us a call. So we've put the whole ecosystem in place. We call it the line energy, but the infrastructure, making sure that you have the right infrastructure. For us, it's a nonprofit center. We just sit down with all the biggest and the charging station OEMs to make sure that we reference the right charging station for their goods and needs. Especially, it's the same thing with level 2, level 3. The kind of vehicle are we going to supply them 125 kilometers or 250 kilometers school bus, depending on the routes that they have, because the battery is the most expensive part on a school bus. So you need to make sure that they have the right range for their needs. After that, we did develop the Telematics System, and then we are really proud to have developed a partnership with Geotab with 200 specific features dedicated to electric. And that's really to optimize the performance, make sure that you follow the routes, you see everything that it's doing. We could prevent an events, what's going to be happening. We could fix 80% of problems from distance. So that's really important to have that in place. And then we bring that to our Bright Squad that we call as mobile service. You need to be present for these guys. You need to, we have experience centers across the country, across North America. That's really, and then we have our mobile Bright Squad that we call. So if anything happens, we're going to be there rolling out in our little vehicles to make sure that we service them. So the whole ecosystem to make sure that, and the training, you need to train mechanics that feel them comfortable with the technology. They need to, master it. I always say the range anxiety, you're going to drive one and then you see 10% of your battery life. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of energy, but you still have 50 to 75 kilometers to go. There's no worries about it. But once you live that once or twice, then you're good afterwards. It's the same thing for anyone who has purchased an electric car. So it's all these things that you need to overcome, but you need to make sure that you're side by side with every customers, because once they understand the whole ecosystem, then they will do the transition. But you still need to be there. You can't let them by themselves. You need to be there at all times. And that's really what's the key for me for transitioning into electrification.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a whole range of solutions for your customer, and you talked about training. How does that work? Did you partner with any colleges or training centers or technical schools to train people? Because this is, everyone's talking about it. It just seems to be such a big issue, even in transit. What about it with your school buses in the charging infrastructure, in everything you actually presented today? How's the training going?
Well,
Oh, Patrick can keep going, and
okay,
then
good.
I'll
Well,
switch to
that's
you,
fine.
and
Yeah,
then
on our end, obviously we did some partnerships with a bunch of different schools, especially the CFTR. But we our own people trains. We have our own classes. You can come to all our experience centers, book training sessions. We also have a lot of videos, but we also go to our different customers to make sure we do the trainings, help the driver, make sure that, so we're on site with them. We do some trainings with some universities, but that's mostly on the maintenance side, that and some special service school. I put, if I could say, maintenance and service professional schools. But most of the training we do ourselves with our own team that will travel across North America to make sure that people are comfortable with the vehicles. And we have them at our experience centers. They can lift it up, look inside, outside, mechanics, drivers, and anyone related to the electrification world and into their school district or contractor operator.
Yeah, excellent. And what about you, Stephen? What's the pathway for to train everyone around your products?
So training and organizational change has been the hardest for us. Due to our decentralized model of using dealerships, each dealership has service bays to help their local area. And we basically had to launch a tremendous campaign to get everybody to, drop the wrench and use a digital multimeter. And since it's not like a centralized model where you've got the hub that does the training, we basically have to go around to each dealership and say, look, this is the bus. These are the components of the bus. Here's the infrastructure. These are the components of the infrastructure. Here's how you do it. Regenerative braking. Yeah, you can't slam it anymore. Okay. We gotta use the battery to its fullest, because you don't want to come back with a lower state of charge than expected, because then you're making your operator pay for the difference in energy. So you got to teach them how to drive the bus. You got to teach them how to service the bus. You got to teach them how to service the infrastructure. So enabling for us was more of a campaign than a lecture. We had to really get out there, bring the bus out there, and get people on board at the dealership level so that they could serve their local territories.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of makes me think, I'd like to go back to one of the things that, Patrick, you said about partnering with everyone, and how important is it to work with the local utility? And I think, Stephen, you mentioned that, and Patrick as well in your presentation. Hydro-Québec has a big role to play in other utilities across Canada as well. So how have you been working with them in terms of transitioning from diesel to electric buses, Patrick?
Well, yeah, it's really important we usually develop some relationships with all the grids across the country and North America, and then we sit down with them. We actually have to do a lot of education. It's surprisingly, a lot of them know know less than we do, and it's perfectly fine, because it's they see a lot of opportunity for them, because like I was saying, it's new revenue for them. But they want to make sure that they could service power, and then for us, we also want to make sure that they're fast enough to bring the power and the right amount of power that's needed, especially when we have big fleets. So it's also education, but you also need to really work closely with them to make sure that you're not gonna go and bust the peaks of energy. So the cost of the energy is too high. So you need to control. So we have some softwares that will control and make sure that you charge efficiently, and that all your vehicles going to be ready for your next route, depending if it's in the afternoon, in the morning, and stuff like that. But it's really important to work closely with them. And then yes, we have been working with all of them, and then BC Hydro is really a really proactive utility that we love to work with. Hydro-Quebec is one, Hydro One, and also, but the Atlantics are quite proactive too into electrification. So it's a lot of fun, great relationships, and there's a lot of new things for them, and they want to master that too. And I feel that grids should be teaching and promoting electrification. So it's important to develop some good relationship with all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned BC Hydro, and we had a great presentation yesterday from Kim Gergelis about the plan that they developed, and it's an amazing. They're leading the way all the way through the country, and same for you mentioned the Maritimes. PEI is super is leading the way as well. So, Stephen, what do you think about that? The importance of partnering and being in collaboration with utilities in the grid around the country?
So our experience is identical to Patrick's. It has been exactly that. It's about getting them on site, educating them, understanding what the power draw of the site would be, reassuring them that we're not, busting peaks, and all of that is exactly the same. What I could add would be that it's interesting to see how even within the same area, utilities accept and do not accept certain things. Even in like the Ontario area, Hydro One would allow something maybe that Electra wouldn't, and then maybe Toronto Hydro would be okay with it, but Brampton Hydro would not be okay with it. So it's about knowing your area, knowing your people, getting the right information, so you don't show up with infrastructure and then they're like, "Nah, take it home." What? No, let me fix it. So it's a nice thing to have. It keeps you on your toes. In the US also, we've dealt with PG&E. PG&E, that was an interesting relationship, and we've gotten really far with them. So that's, but it's a lot of education. It's surprising, that how cautious they are. They don't want to take big moves. They don't want to make them fast. They just want to think about it and model it. So, we have to respect that.
Absolutely. It all goes back to education. So I'm being cognizant of time here. What is your key takeaways, and what should people retain from this great discussion, Stephen, in a 1 minute conclusion?
Oh man. It's easier than it looks. That's why, you hire me and Patrick, because that's our job. We're supposed to make this easy for you, but we do a lot in the background that you don't know about, just to make it easy for you. That's my 1 minute takeaway for this one. Like don't be worried about it. It's not. It doesn't. It won't like completely flip your organization over. And it's going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hire the right professional like you guys. What about you, Patrick? One key takeaway is that people can.
I mean, electrification, it's happening now. It's not something of tomorrow. And I always say, you know what? We are a part of, as a country here in Canada right now, a leader. It's a worldwide transition. And then I always say, when you're bringing innovation, you need to make sure that, we do the same service. So we need to keep bringing kids to school, but improve the journey and improve the service that you're going to be offering. And this is what electrification does. It improves, riding, and bringing kids to school.
Absolutely. It goes back to that lifestyle that we talked about at the beginning. And so I'd like to say merci beaucoup, Patrick, Stephen. Thank you so much to our audience. And please don't forget to join us at our virtual networking taking place in about 5 minutes at 3:30 Eastern Time. And if you missed it, I'm thrilled to share that QTRIC has been named the National Planning Service for Infrastructure Canada Zero Emission Transit Fund. So thanks again, Patrick and Stephen. Thanks for your participation today, and we look forward to seeing you in the sponsor exhibit with Ricardo at 4:15. It's right after networking. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely day.